Hey guys, HuShang here. Welcome to another Starcraft 2 lesson. In this video, we're going to be looking at some Zerg gameplay. And this game is part of my grind to GM. Just recently got back into GM with Zerg. It's been a little while. And it was not too easy. This guy especially was one of my harder opponents. He's a 5.6k protoss. So I think that's around 80 GM or so. And he's a notoriously dirty cheeser. His name is UWU, which I believe is pronounced Uwu. So I'm just going to open up pretty standard here. I'm going to try to play an aggressive macro game. So we're going to get into a nice position, hopefully defend whatever weird stuff he throws at us, and then after that go on the attack. We see his probe coming in here. This guy is not necessarily someone who cannon rushes a lot, but certainly within his wheelhouse, so we're making sure he's not moving that probe towards the ramp or anything. I think this is a pretty good map to cannon rush as well, so you really got to be careful of that behind the mineral location at the natural. But it doesn't look like he's doing that. We're pretty safe. So let's grab our third base. Big fan of this fast third base build. And soon we'll see what he's up to. He's definitely a crafty guy. In PvP, he likes to play Adept Glaives openings, like the parting build. So that build can be quite hard to deal with, and then he often likes to go into DTs or Void Rays or some crazy off meta stuff. So you really got to watch what he's up to. We see him start at his gateway unit and his warp gate. So pretty unlikely it's going to be a Stargate opening. And I really like sacking this first Overlord, so let's do that. Let's see what tech building he's gonna get. You can also go for a Ling Scout, but it's just not as viable with the third hatch opening. Okay, so he's getting a Twilight Council. So we'll keep that in mind. Could be Dark Templar. Could be Adept Glaives. Those are the two most common builds. And there's a few others, but it's most likely going to be one of those two. So at this part, we can just kind of drone up. We'll get our guys back on gas and start setting up for a Roach Warren. We basically already know the progression for the next couple minutes. As long as you see Twilight Council, you can basically initiate your Twilight response defense. As opposed to something like Stargate, you're going to play a lot differently. So for example, you can see me grabbing a really early Roach Warren here. Very important if you scout a Twilight Council or a Robo. And I made a bunch of Lings. We're going to just make sure that we know exactly when he gets his third base. I think a lot of Zergs are missing out on this info, but this is probably one of the most important things you can pick up on is when their third base goes down. If you know their tech structure and when their third base goes down, you basically know what their options are. So I'm going to queue up a couple roaches here, and then next I'm going to see how committed he is to this aggression. If he was going for, you know, some light DT pressure, he might take a third base. But now we pick up a lot of info here. He's got a Robo, but he doesn't have anything building, so he's obviously completed whatever he wanted already, which is likely a War Prism. And we also see that he has no third base, and it's pretty late for no third base. You'd usually see this around 4 minutes at the fastest, and maybe 4:30 is more normal. 5 minutes is already quite late. So this has got to be some sort of pretty aggressive pressure here. So you see me queuing up a bunch of roaches and zerglings. I figured this would be a depths, but it's actually charge. I didn't realize anybody did this except for me. So he does a little charge pressure here, but it doesn't really work out. We get to snag all these zealots. And already we're in a really great position. So the next thing I'm going to do is use these zerglings. We're very behind in workers, by the way. If I click on the workers here, you'll see that we're at 34 to 45. Which means we probably committed a little too much to that defense. But you're going to see here, even if you do that, you can kind of compensate by putting on a little bit of pressure against protoss and put yourself in a decent position. So over defending, not a terrible thing in this matchup. You can see I have like 30 zerglings at his third base, so it's actually very difficult for him to actually take that. So that's how we're going to come back here. Still building roaches. From this position, I actually misread it a little bit. I thought he might be going for like a continuous zealot all in. And so I kept building units because I wasn't really sure what he was doing, but he was actually getting a forge behind this and making probes. So this was definitely a little bit of an overcommitment to units. But you'll see in a second that it's not the worst thing ever. Yeah, so now I see an immortal. And we can drone up a little bit now. It might seem counterintuitive, but the immortal, like if he was doing an immortal all in, it wouldn't necessarily be hitting right away. So this is a good point for us to make some workers. It's more scary if he's like continuing to charge that all in. Okay, so he's expanding here. So now we know his intentions are to macro up at least a little bit. And here I want to get a scout in, so I'm going to send an overlord in a second to make sure we can see what tech buildings he's getting. You can tell this guy's high level. He's really not letting us breathe too much, even when we're harassing him. Okay, now I don't have to send the overlord in because my lings were able to get in his base. And we see that he's got a lot of gateways, more than the first attack was requiring. So we know he's transitioning over into a very heavy ground attack. And this is going to let me know that this is safe to do. So I'm making a bunch of Ravagers. I told you at the beginning, we want to play this very aggressive. So I'm making a bunch of Ravagers. We're going to go for a massive attack. But if he was going for, you know, Void Rays behind this, or like Disruptors or something like that, you really don't want to do this type of attack. So it's really important that you know what his transition is. But now we know it's safe for sure. And I'm going to build up to this just really, really aggressive Roach Ravager push. So in the meantime, we'll just defend. I actually forgot my Roach speed, so we're a little bit more delayed than I would like. I actually wanted to push about now. Now, surprisingly, he's actually attacking me. So this gets a little awkward. Some of our Ravagers are at the front, which is unfortunate. But we get an Archon, we get a Sentry. It's like reasonable trades. He really didn't have any great options for getting out of here. Maybe he should have recalled earlier. So we get to snipe an Immortal and a couple Archons. He's really not going to make this game easy for us though. So we got to make sure that we're still respecting his potential to do some big counterattacks. So you can see here I have some Roaches split off from my main army. And we also have some Roaches over on this side since his War Prism is over here. Okay, so now my top group has dealt with the Zealots, so I'm going to put those back into the main group. But I'm going to keep the group on the left-hand side on a hotkey in case he goes for another War Prism attack. And then we're just going to push straight into him right here. Obviously, we have a big advantage from the earlier periods of this game, so this is possible. If this was a more even game, I definitely wouldn't be this direct about the push. But in this case, it's fine. There, he did go for a massive counterattack, like we expected. But it's fine because we had that control group set up. So, important stuff. Now, in this chaos, we did forget to make some overseers. So what I'm going to do is just make sure we kill this before we leave. I think it's important to get that, even if we lose a bunch of roaches. But now we'll back up. We've defended the Zealot counterattack. And there's kind of a lull here. So whenever there's a lull like this where you have to back up, you should really expect them to go for some sort of counterattack. Like, they're not just going to sit back and do nothing when they're behind. So what I'm going to do here is set up some Spine Crawler and Spore Crawler at that top right base. That seems like the most likely because my army is at the middle left. And I think I also put some roaches up there, just for when the Spine Crawlers are still building. I could be wrong though. We did see the War Prison fly up there right now. I don't think I noticed that in-game. But here's the DT. Here's the counterattack I was talking about. So we defend that pretty easily because we're thinking ahead of time. And now we can just run up here and crush his army. And yeah, GG was called. Great little game. Instructive, I think. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to like the video and subscribe. As always, if you're interested in coaching, you can check out my website. And you can support the YouTube channel by joining for as little as $1. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.